Hello everyone. So this is going to be my first video for the section of my channels called About the Author. This is going to be getting to know the real me, the me behind my channels. I run LandoLights, which is a channel dedicated to helping people with narcissistic personality disorder, narcissistic qualities, or borderline personality disorder. I also run the channel L.G.Sungrew, which is my creative writings, which mixes religion and mythology into a creative writing, as well as I have the channel Narcissistic Oracles, which is to promote my oracle cards, which are also supposed to be enlightening and educating as far as personality disorders. And also it's a creative way to help somebody to accept that they're hooked on a narcissist. Now, I'm not going to say that a lot of people do. I know I did. I do. I have. So I'm just trying to help people skip the steps that I should have skipped, which, choosing a dead-end path is not fun. Anyways, my name's Landon. My full name is Landon Gray Robinson, which actually breaks down to land on gray, so not black or white. And then Robinson would actually mean like Ra, the sun god, and Ben means son of, and sun is sun, so my last name's literally Ra, son of sun. So you'll see that that definitely gets mixed into my creative writings. Where to begin? So my main inspiration, I would say, my passion comes from my faith, my love, and mine, I would say, comes from, I'm definitely a mama's boy, raised by my mom, which my mom is, to me, she's my biggest hero. Like, there's nobody like her, and she's just absolutely amazing. And what's interesting is, I've never met anybody who could ever say otherwise, almost to the point of fear, because how could I put this? So she's going to write a book one day about her life, but in a brief summary, any kind of horror movie that's realistic or real life happenings to a person that could happen has happened to my mom. Not even joking. From murder to you name the whole full spectrum, she's been there, she's done that, she's seen it. But what she didn't do was lose her humanity or her faith. Yes, and that's exactly why my LandoLights channel exists. Narcissism, and that's why I'm able to understand and speak narcissism differently than other people. Narcissism actually forms as a defense mechanism to survive, for your brain to be able to handle what's going on in life. Most people don't understand that. Then again, most people don't really care that much, because all they know is that this person is toxic. I know I just had a therapist quit on me today because toxic wasn't something she wanted to deal with, and I was kind of like, honey, do you know what line of work you're in? But you have to understand, people don't come out of the womb toxic. Then again, people don't always know or are aware that they are toxic. But it is a defense mechanism, narcissism, and that is focusing on defending yourself. If you feel like you're at risk or in danger, or you can't be comfortable, you're gonna defend yourself. You know what I mean? And that's actually what narcissism is. If people could just take the time to see it, that person is defending their ego, fighting you, trying to cut you down. They think they're defending themselves. That's the bottom line of narcissism. And I hope that humanity can understand that eventually, to the point where they themselves don't feel wounded or like they're under attack when a narcissist is acting narcissistic. It's a sign that they think they're in danger, or that they're, they're less than, or whatever, It's something that can be helped. I'm hoping to start this whole, whatever you want to call it, to help them. But really, if you allow a narcissist to hurt your ego, then you're on their level. Your ego is just as fragile as theirs, except theirs got hurt before yours. Sorry, this has nothing to do with about the author. Let me go back to about the author. So I'm Landon Gray Robinson. I am 36 years old. My father was the stuntman Dar Robinson, and my mother was a beauty queen, Mrs. Hawaii, 1983. Unfortunately, my father passed away when I was 18 months old, so I really didn't know my dad at all. I just know what my mom told me about him, and I got to see the videos and, you know, all the cool things. I mean, it's really cool that, you know, my dad was a stuntman because I get to see him through videos. You know, had that not been, he probably would have just been a picture. But a lot of my stories you'll see where I talk about like the sleeping Venus, or because I look at it, it's similar to how like Isis and Isis and Horus, or, you know, Jesus and Mary, or all throughout history, you have the mother without a father and then the son, you know, so it's like Mary and Jesus, for instance. And so all the son has to go off of what a man should be, or, you know, is what the mother's telling him. So you'll see in my creative writings, I actually use that, because who's to say that there ever was a father, or, you know what I mean? Who's to say that she didn't just create the whole story of everything? I mean, in my creative writings, actually, women wrote the Bible, which would make sense, you know, especially since all of the different histories talk about how there's a mother and a son, usually with no father, miraculously. And it would make sense because, you know, the Bible is written as a handbook for man. Why is it specifically for men? Because, you know, women wrote it. It would just make sense, you know. But yeah, so clinically, me personally, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, bipolar 2 disorder, and then with the borderline personality disorder, I have severe or heavy narcissistic traits. So what that means is I'm a narcissist who feels empathy or too much empathy. I don't know. If you would want to look it up or see my other channels for the explanation. But so I look at my life and my passion and my faith, my ego even, you know, my narcissism is actually not actual narcissistic personality disorder narcissism. Mine is almost like I don't want to say arrogance, but it's overly confident. Like, and here's why. So because my mom went through such an intense life where she had to fend for herself and build high walls, and, you know, it was, you know, either she took care of herself or nobody did type thing. And this is why in my stories I talk about like Venus being like, you know, the sleeping Venus, but she's also a badass, and she, you know, she's about love, but she's also, you know, like a goddess and everything. That's how I see my mom. Like, she saw the world, was alone, and she conquered it. Like, she just all around, between education, she went to 14 years of college, you know what I mean? Between looks, she was blessed. Between etiquette and poise, you know, presentation, socializing, empathy. You know, my mother definitely has empathy, you know, for sure. She became the best she could in the world. Now, I'm not trying to brag and be like, oh, my mom's just... But I want to explain, when that's your mother and you're born her baby, and I actually happen to be what's called the golden child, or, you know, so somebody with a defense like narcissism, or I guess it would be narcissism, they have one child, which would be the golden child, which is the child that they look at and they see their good qualities or their inner child, or, you know. So when I was born, and I think this had to do with my father, like my dad had a good heart, you know, I mean, he was a little Hollywood, but he loved my mom. Like, he knew all out, that was the one for him. Like, there's a weird thing that they say about the Robinsons, and I definitely see it, but we are almost born Robinson men with like a ideal of what we're looking for, and we're Robinson men. We'll just leave it at that. But we know when we find that one we're looking for, and then we just like, woo, like male hunters, like all out. That's the one I have to have, And then the more they like fight or resist, oh my gosh, it just makes us want to go for it even more. But that was my mom for my dad. But you have to understand, my mom has the highest walls that nobody could climb, So it was kind of sad because as she kept her walls up, I mean, just by nature, that's what you would do. He did climb them, but like right after he was like, in the midst of climbing them, he suddenly died. You know what I mean? And can you imagine somebody with walls as high as my mom's, for that guy that she waited for to climb the walls to just die? He just didn't come home one day. It's even more traumatizing for somebody with those kind of walls, So because of that, I was all she had left. So I became the golden child, So what she did was she used her tough goddess, narcissism, badass exterior to basically put a bubble around me. So growing up, like, it's like people weren't allowed to talk about like a bad side of the world or, negative things. It was like I was so sheltered in a bubble of, she just told me, smell the flowers, look at the sun. And when I was little, I used to think the sun was following me wherever I went. And she didn't even correct me. She was just like, yes, the sun is following you wherever you go. Like, I lived in a bubble because she wanted me to be untouched from the darkness of the world she knew. You know what I mean? But that's the thing that happens is she overcompensated because she saw so much darkness. She sheltered me from the darkness. You know what I mean? So growing up, eventually you reach a point where you're going to school or you're meeting people or things like that where you're going to run into darkness or you're going to see that side of the world. And it's just like, I mean, I really was pathetic. I would come home crying to my mom like, Mom, I didn't understand, why is the world like that? Or, like, why don't people just love? And, she raised me to believe in, sunshine, butterflies, and, all these things. And then it really confused me at a certain age when I realized the rest of the world did not have that at all. Like, the rest of the world was just like, this is life, this is shit. I mean, most people's parents, they're just like, my life sucked, your life sucks too. You know what I mean? Like, this is life, we're all human, but my mom, like, raised me to believe in, like, faith and, like, passion and love and God, and like with the faith of a mustard seed you could move a mountain, and just to the extent where I really, 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 that was just the only world I ever knew. So as an adult, when you apply this to real life, they would call you delusional. Especially when you're like, well, if I believe hard enough, things will become what I want them to be. It's not quite how the world works. But I also learned her determination, you know what I mean? Where if I want something to be something, I'm smart enough to figure out how to make that happen. You know what I mean? One way or another, there's always, to me, in my mind, which this could also be my blind faith, there's got to be a way to make it happen if it can happen at all. I mean, I'm not delusional where I think I can like grow wings and fly, but when you really, really, really want something that bad, which most people, that's the problem, in my opinion, with the world. People don't really hope or believe or invest in anything that hard anymore. And it's sad to me because I didn't grow up that way. But I see everybody around me and they're just like, oh, I mean, they shoot down their dreams before they even imagine them, and that to me is a foreign language. And then it really gets frustrating is because when I try to interact, they almost hate me for believing the way that I do in a delusional world. And then I'm confused by them and their pessimism, but it pans out to them being successful in the world and me being a psychiatry patient on medication, because I actually live in the la la land, And, the honest truth, honestly, I know I'm crazy. I know I believe in fairy tales, Disney stories, happily ever afters, true love, all of that shit. And I believed in it so long, I can't really unbelieve it. And I do know my mom's the reason why. And I do know the doctors tell me it's unhealthy. I do know I take medication. But I wouldn't change that for the world. I would rather live in La La Land than in the world I see other people living in. That's why I write my stories, because I want to bring you out of your world into my La La Land for 5 minutes, because it's so much nicer than what is actually the world that I refuse to see. It's not that I refuse to see it, it's just my brain's so... They call it projection in psychology, or delusion, or... I know I had one psychiatrist tell me, she said, oh, well, you're a borderline. She said, you're the god of your own universe. And I was like, wait, what? Like, don't be calling me God. And she's like, no, you don't understand. She's like, you get a thought or a feeling or a perception of the world and you believe it so much, it's literally real to you. And it took me a while to understand exactly what she meant by that, but I figured it out later on, the first time I ever fell in love, well, the only time. And that's when I really started to see it. It was quite an experience. I don't know. I had a friend of mine growing up who is from Egypt, or she's half Egyptian, and she would tell me about the actual Egyptian beliefs that most people actually, you'd be surprised. I don't understand why that. I don't find that online. Like, there's little stories she would tell me, like the story of the phoenix. So we all know that the phoenix is a bird that it dies and then it raises from the ashes, or bursts into flames, turns into ashes, and then it births from the ashes, and then it becomes a phoenix again, and then its tears have healing powers and all of that stuff. But what they don't tell you about, which is actually in Egyptian mythology, according to my friend, the baby phoenix, although it has healing powers and all of those good things that it does as an adult, when it's a baby rising from the ashes, it cries. And it cries and it cries. And so the people of the town or the village, they take turns coddling and holding it, because what it's doing is it's sucking the energy out of them to grow. Which I thought was such a cool and interesting story, because that's what I felt like as a golden child. Do you know what I mean? Like, people went out of their way to maintain this facade of a happy la 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 land world. I mean, for me as a child and growing up, I still don't understand why or how my mom got them to do it, but I mean, it could be an Asian thing, I guess, because my grandmother's Japanese, but they literally painted the world differently for me. I don't know why. I mean, I like to, in my stories, make it about keeping hope and faith alive in the world. Because, I mean, without hope and faith in the world, I mean, really, where would we end up? And I don't know. It just it's weird. But yeah. So back to the story. The phoenix. So the phoenix actually feeds off of people coddling it until it becomes an adult, and then it repays with the health and the healing and all the things that the adult phoenix does. But the people had to feed into it. They had to shelter and baby this bird that cried all the time to get it to that beneficial adulthood. So also there was she told me that love, and I do believe this, well, because I've lived it. Maybe I lived it because I believe it. I don't know. I mean, the newest thing I've been learning about is beliefs, manifestations, and all these things. Life's one wild ride for me. Pick any of the channels and follow along, you'll see. But she had told me, she said, a man can only give his heart truly once. And she said, and that's it. And then once he gives it to that person, it's stuck with that person. They can't ever give it away. He can't ever take it back. But he knows. And she said, deep down inside, every man knows who he gave his heart to. And so for me, I was like, that, and that has a lot to do with, if you look at my L.G.Sungrew channel, the book, it's a basis there about hearts and a man giving his heart. And, I didn't know what I had thought. I had thought I'd been in love so many times, you say I love you, like, I guess I used to. I don't know. My mom said it to me all the time. I said it all the time. Everyone in the family, we all said it to each other. But when I gave my heart, the one time, when I gave it, you just know. And it's, to me, in my mind, what happened, I don't know, it's the most awkward, weirdest feeling as a person. I don't know, as just a human being. Like, I've said I love you a million times. I thought I loved people, but I probably loved what they did for me, how they made me feel, how everything looked. I loved a lot of things, but when I actually truly loved somebody and gave them my heart, I felt it leave, if that makes any sense. It was weird. And so automatically the first thing you do is you panic. It's, something's missing, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if you've ever taken ecstasy, but when the ecstasy pill wears off, that numb, glowy feeling that you had that whole time the ecstasy was going, it just stops. And then it's like, it feels like the air's cold, you know what I mean? It's a feeling. And what's even weirder, and I'm somebody, I like to study things and check things out, but when it happened, it's the weirdest thing. See, I had a situation where somebody tried to take my heart once, and that was the same thing. It was a girl, and she actually was almost manipulating my words to say, I'm here for you. I know that's the funniest thing, because you would actually think it would be I love you. That would be the words that would do you in. But no, when you say I'm here for you, I don't know. For some reason, there's something about for, and now I'm getting into my creative writings. I can't help it. I'm a writer. But her pupils got big, like huge, like puppy dog. It was strange, but it was almost like looking into the eyes of a snake, you know what I mean? But I caught myself as I was saying the words, and I was like, oh, no, wait. Ooh, like, I'm not here for you. I'm me, this and that. But I brushed it off, as a weird thing. But then there was the one, I don't know, there was a boy, and it happened again. His pupil, he looked at me, and it wasn't the words he was saying, it was the feeling that we had, but his eyes, his pupils got huge, like a puppy dog's. And they say eyes are the window to the soul, but, his pupils got big. And it kind of like my soul, my me felt a little bit of like a warning. Like, this is a sign, It's like, in your inner self, what's about to happen. Because it has to be a choice, and I did. I loved this boy, I really did, and I continued on, and then it was weird, like, after it moved to him, my heart, I would assume, it's how I see it, but I got insecure, I got worried, nervous, I was, you know what I mean, like, I just felt like victimized. So, in a way, it was a really strange thing. But what I found interesting was he almost couldn't see it. Does that make sense? He got like overly confident and arrogant. I guess he had my ego, if that makes any sense. Like, well, why are you, uncomfortable around me? Like, he had this glowing confidence of like, what's wrong with me? And I'm sitting here going like, I'm scared, But I took the first instance that I could and I ran. I just straight up grabbed my bag, paid my bill, ran out the door, literally. I mean, it was kind of embarrassing, but he was so upset and he was just like, you've just done to me what every guy's ever done to me. And, like, he was just like, I can't believe it. He, like, literally was like, he messaged me and was like, I'm about to, he was about to jump off a cliff just because he couldn't understand why this keeps happening to him. And that's when I formulated this idea that people don't realize what's happening. Like, a man doesn't realize he's giving his heart to somebody. And the person, I'm saying person because for me it was a boy. I think in general it's a girl, but doesn't realize they're taking their heart from you. It's like, you're all in love. This guy's all in love with you 1 second. And then, but once his heart goes into you, he's scared. He's missing his heart. And you're not seeing that. All you're seeing is like, wait a minute, you said you loved me 5 seconds ago and now you don't? But it's interesting. And I watched it happen when it happened with me, and I got so insecure and uncomfortable. And when I had courted him, you know what I mean? I was Mr. Confident, like, oh, nothing could go wrong. Like, I was all about the compliments. I mean, everything that a guy would do to win the love of his heart. But once I gave my heart to him, I went into insecurity. Oh my gosh, not feeling good enough. It was just awful. And then he was so upset, as if I lied to him, or if I, what I mean? It was all an act, and then I caught on to the system and I was like, wow, this is happening every day in so many couples. I see it all the time. I mean, if you go to any, I found my way into tarot because tarot actually helps the person who's acquired this heart, who doesn't realize that's what's in them, to understand what's happening and why the guy's acting the way he's acting. But it's intense. And then, there's battle of the ego. But again, this doesn't have, it's just supposed to be about the author. So about me. When I gave my heart away, I had so much faith and so much la la land in my heart that when I gave it away, I literally felt like I gave my world away. And it was awful, and I struggled to get it back. It's so weird. And then you start to, I feel like a nutso because it's like, why this one guy? Like, literally, why him? Like, the reason I had waited and saved my heart so long is I looked for somebody like my mom. Somebody who had those walls that high, but somebody who still had that love in their eyes, that empathy in their actions. He would just perfectly the criteria that I had on my Robinson man list. And he was just perfect. I mean, he was physically beautiful and had no idea because the world had treated him so shitty his whole life to keep it from him, almost as in like they knew he didn't know. So they all chipped in and everybody made him feel like he wasn't handsome, if that makes sense. Either that or I'm just batshit crazy, but I'm pretty damn sure the guy's gorgeous. But because men can sense that insecurity, especially in other men, they kept it from him. They treated him as if he was flawed. So long that when I met him in his 30s, he actually believed it. And I was just like, oh, this is the moment I was waiting for. Like, I'll be your hero. I'll be your Prince Charming. I'll, fight all of these idiots off. And if they don't see you, I sure as hell do. Like, let me make you happy, And what sucked, though, was it was going well. I mean, I climbed those mother friggin' walls and I was so strong and confident. But once I got over the wall and he, I guess you would say, was open to my love or my heart, his eyes literally opened. Once the heart went into him, there went my confidence, there went Prince Charming, there whatever, you know what I mean? All of a sudden I felt like, well, I've already explained this. And see, what, it wasn't his fault. It wasn't my fault. I mean, I'm glad that I don't know. I obsessed about it so much. Every detail, I'm like, wait, what happened? Was it real? Did I imagine it? You have to understand, especially when you're diagnosed with crazy, you have to analyze everything and be like, okay, so wait, am I being delusional? Or is this really happening? You know, am I seeing what I want to see? Or is this a reality? But all in all, it was just, I don't know. It's intense. It sucks because my heart's different. You know what I mean? Like, I saved it, and it in my mind, in my eyes, in my life, it was designed for one person. And I only invested and went for and gave it to one person. I don't regret giving it to that person. But I regret the shock of how I reacted when I gave it to him, if that makes any sense. And it just sucks, because what is the saying? The higher up the pedestal you are, the farther you have to fall down. So all of that work that I did, you know what I mean, to be confident and Mr. Oh, I'll be your hero, or I'll give you compliments and treat you like a whatever, it went away, and then I just pluck, because I built myself up so much to be this person for him. And then when it came down to it, it went beep, and just had nothing. I don't know. It was, but see, what's sad is I gave it to him. Does that make sense? I know this is probably just me, but this is me. This is the author. This is my passion. This is what I think about, what I get lost in. I gave him that. I gave him my heart, that the glowing star within me. Yeah, and I don't think I'm ever gonna recover, and it's sad. It's so sad. I don't know that I'm even gonna post this, but the honest truth, I don't think I can recover. How would you? You know what I mean? The whole purpose of how the system's supposed to work is when a man gives his heart to, you know, a woman, they're supposed to be married, so they kind of share the energy source. But I gave mine to somebody who was, you know, for good reason, walls and defense and not trusting of the world. And then I gacked would be the word. Right when I had him at that moment, right when I gave him my heart, I gacked, you know what I mean, and panicked. So he went, oh my gosh, you know, walls back up, I don't trust him. And what sucks even more is that my heart's in him, grieving me, and his walls and his damage that he's gone through just makes the walls even higher. So it's like my heart is locked inside this huge fortress that's just getting worse and worse. The more my heart grieves me and wants to come back to me, because that's how it's supposed to work, the higher he's building the walls, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh my God, what do I do? I mean, really, what would you do? How do I fix this? I've tried everything, writing stories, making videos, I mean, making a fool of myself, singing songs, sending songs, like. And what sucks is the more effect that it has. I mean, I think, yes, I have obviously, this is such a focus of mine, willpower to battle this out, to get my man and my heart back, because he's the hardest person to do that with, if that makes sense. The more I activate my heart within him, the higher his walls go up, because he thinks vulnerable, I'm gonna get hurt. Somebody stole his heart a long time ago, and they never came back with it. And as a man, I know right now what I'm going through. I mean, for him, gosh, it's just awful. It's an awful feeling. And I know it must have happened to him early on, because he just lost faith in the world. Like, he really did. But that's why I was like, well, I have extra faith. I'm faith on freaking steroids. They call it borderline euphoria. I mean, crazy is crazy. Drinking's drinking. I don't know. Psychology is psychology. Theories are theories. At the end of the day, when I sit alone, I just think about the void. And that's why I think the V in us is that void you feel when you've given your heart away. Love is supposed to fill the void in the man, and then the woman's supposed to hold his heart. But I just don't know what to do. And I like to consider myself, and see, there's my arrogance though. I'm intelligent. I'm actually good looking. I got a 5 years modeling contract. I mean, I can do anything I put my mind to, except get my liver and my heart back. And so this is the author, and this is where my passion comes for all my channels. Yep. The creative writings is ideas, theories, and things to comfort my empty chest. My psychology aspects is ways to hopefully help people with high walls or low self-esteem, or who have been damaged, to heal themselves. Tarot's just for fun. I mean, who doesn't love a little tarot? It takes you out of the reality and puts you into a fantasy world, really. I don't know. I've been living in that world for a long time. I love what tarot readings have to say versus what's actually going on. I think tarot's actually helped kill that crazy faith that I had, because, believing all these things that the cards are saying, and then seeing that not actually happening, you start to realize, wow, what I believe actually isn't what they say in tarot or in the Bible. It's what you do with it. Faith isn't just a manifestation. It's not like I'm just going to sit here in this spot and go, I believe that $1 million is going to fall on my porch. There's 1 million people who are going to sell that to you, and they'll sell it to you at a price, which actually makes me a little mad, because people are dumb enough to be paying for it. What it more so means is like how I believe this person is the one for me, and I believe it so much, I apply all my efforts. You know what I mean? I use all my thinking power. I do, you know what I mean? I come up with creative ideas. That's faith. It's almost like if you believe it so much that it just is, then you're going to make plans and act on it. Not just sitting and believing it. That's called fantasizing. We could all do that all day. Actually, I do that most of the day, hence my stories. But faith, and you could have the faith of a mustard seed, but unless you push that mountain, you're not going to move the mountain. Just wanted to clarify that for the world. I know from experience, nothing ever just showed up on my door because I wished it and believed it. I mean, definitely prayers and, blessings and miracles. But as far as faith, goals, dreams, you've got to invest in it. And see, and that's why I do believe in karma. Karma is balance of energy. If you put all your effort and all your thought and all your acts, into something, it's got to balance. You know what I mean? What I think is funny is this missing heart situation, and this person who has it, who's resisting me. I feel like it's a rubber band that I've been pulling back so long that he's on the other end of this rubber band going, oh my God, it's going to snap at any moment. It's going to hurt so bad. Because I'm just like, pulling this rubber band back, because eventually I'm going to let go and it's just going to go whack right into him. But that's how karma and energy works. And I just have to laugh, because the more, that's kind of like what they describe in the twin flame journey, the runner and the chaser. The more one runs, the more the other chases. It's just like, the more you resist, the more that rubber band gets pulled back. And then it's just like, we know how this is going to end. I mean, how could you not? I mean, I learned that lesson when I was in junior high. my best friend to this day, the only friend that I've ever had my whole life. Her name is Daisy, and she was actually probably the biggest girl in our junior high, but she was cute with bubbly voice, and she picked me out of all the boys in junior high, and she's like, "You're my love. I freaking love you, Landon." Da 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 da. And at first I was just like, oh, I didn't even like girls to begin with because I was gay, but she was so awkwardly forceful about and just open, like, I'm in love with him. That's the one. He's my Landon, And I pushed her away, and I didn't want her to hug me and all of these things, but she would just nonstop always be the number one Landon fan, and I took it for granted and just thought whatever about it. But the day that I moved away from her, I grieved. You know what I mean? I didn't realize how much that mattered, and it helped, and it meant to me to have. I mean, what human being wouldn't appreciate being appreciated? It's human nature to feel good about being appreciated, acknowledged, existing. You know what I mean? Our brains are literally hardwired to want to exist with people. You know what I mean? Like oxytocin. That's a chemical that your brain releases that makes you feel happy just by somebody touching you. And then the things that actually release dopamine in your brain, I mean, it can get jaded sometimes, but for the most part, it has to do with others. Even in the sense, like if you were to go like, oh, well, cocaine and meth and all those things, those produce more dopamine. True. But when that dopamine is enhanced in a person's brain, what are their thoughts? What is their consciousness at? It's actually about how they feel about themselves or how they feel other people feel about them. Hence, narcissism, does come a lot with, people who are high on drugs because they just think they're so great. Da, 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 da. Somebody couldn't feel that feeling without other people, existing to project off of. My point is when somebody willingly, openly, not like in a creepy, I want to like put you in a cage, your mind kind of thing, but, let's get this straight. I just want to be very clear. A stalker is a stalker. There are boundaries. And this is how I identify a boundary. When you set a boundary, if somebody crosses the boundary that you set, that's not right. But there is a lot of leeway, and it sucks because, it's all about perception when somebody doesn't set a boundary. And I like to express this and throw this out into the world because there's a lot of stupid videos out there that say, oh, if a narcissist or a sociopath or anybody, just don't answer. Wrong. Listen to me clearly as somebody with a personality disorder who's been through 13 years of schooling, who grew up in a family, who has had times where I've been delusional. Do not ever leave open thinking space for somebody who you think has a personality disorder or any kind of mental illness. You have to set a boundary with somebody who you think might be capable of, not being all there in their mind. The worst advice is ever to just be silent because you're giving a crazy painter a blank canvas to paint on. That silence could be painted into a million different scenarios, a million different things, you know what I mean? And then don't turn around and be like, oh, I don't understand why they're still, because you didn't set the boundary. You need to shut the door and speak. Leave me alone. I don't like you. Boom. That's it. Couple words, done. But when you do not answer and you go gray rock, that doesn't torture a narcissist in the sense where what it's doing, and let me make this also clear. Those people going, oh, gray rock, it gets a narcissist, it hurts. Those people are enjoying the narcissist obsessing over them. You want a narcissist to go away? You tell them, go away. Because it hurts their ego that you told them to go away, and for them to fight that would be embarrassing. So to all idiots who believe in gray rock, you're idiots. I am Landon Gray Robinson. This is About the Author.